Welcome to the first episode of How I AI, which is a bonus episode right now for the Tech Brew Ride Home podcast. But I don't know. Like I've said for several weeks now, I'm working out a new concept here about talking about how people are using AI. So we're calling it How I AI. And to help me work out the kinks on this format, we've got our old friend Chris Messina here. Chris.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like we're on a maybe a every 6 months cadence at this point, but anytime you're available.
It's like 5 years of things happen, and then we get back together in 6 months. And
that's right,
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just saw you a few days ago. So right, when it
flesh.
rains, it pours. So as I said offline, I'm still working out the format, and I think what I'll always do is start by asking people how they got AI pilled or AI religion. What was the thing that made them realize you could use AI in your life before we get to the project? But what we need to do is we need you to ask me that first.
Exactly. I was going to say, so that's where this conversation starts. So
right.
To set this up, like we're sort of play testing the format by starting with me being you.
Right.
And you're turning me into your agent, I suppose, in this context.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm a human version of Claude where, we can roll with it and it's a little bit more dynamic than you just being like, all right, Claude, like I want you to interview me like, how did I get AI pilled? Which would be not terribly compelling content. So, let's start there, because I think it's probably even worth revisiting a little bit at like our backstory and why it's sort of like shocking in a way that you got religion. Like,
you mean because
recently
we deployed millions of dollars in capital in an AI fund?
Correct. What I find so funny about this, and we'll just stand this for like 30 seconds, is this like, I remember very clearly when we had the conversation, in March of 24 or whenever it was, essentially, and I pitched you on the idea of like AI varietals and the idea that vertical AI was going to be way more powerful in many respects than AGI, God mode, whatever. And the thinking and the thesis was that there's so many. It's almost like a fractal problem to get super deep into every use case and application, whether it's regulation or just like the feel of the software that we use. And so my thesis was that generative AI was going to introduce this new medium. And this new medium is, as you've discovered, it's software, but it's software that anyone can write. And so, you've had this resume writers business forever that employed humans, like, from the 1800s or whatever. And, you're bringing that into like the modern world, just as like, obviously the job world is also changing. So it feels like something happened for you. I don't know if you just like one day were like, screw it, I got to do something. But bring us into that moment where, you took the blue pill and suddenly on the other side, you realized that maybe vibe coding was something for you after all.
Right. This is going to be specifically a vibe coding example, but Paul Ford was on Peter Kafka's podcast recently, and he was making the pitch to Peter about whether AI can work in Peter's daily life, and Paul said, I'm a guy that looks at problems to solve with software. That's how I think about the world. And if you don't think in that way, or we'll get to this more importantly, if you don't think that you're qualified to look at the world that way, that's the sort
well,
of
to be
divide.
clear, for a very long time, well, up until even like last December, that was predominantly true for most people. Solving problems with software, it's sort of like, the person that has a hammer and everything is a nail. Like that's great if you, can wield a hammer, but if you are clumsy.
So what we're saying is I did not think until like a month ago that I could wield a hammer.
Correct.
And now I feel like the pilling has been, not anybody can wield a hammer, but if you're willing.
You're not going to like build a house, but you can probably start with a shed.
So, okay, real quick, as quick as I can, because you said that, of course, everybody got transformed, even the people that are clued in and around December. And when I was at CES in January, like this was the heat of that moment, and I started screwing around with downloading models on my laptop and seeing what I can do locally and stuff like that. And that led to...
even that, like when you say downloading models, like what we're using for that, because even the gateway, you can't just like download a model and something happens.
And by the way, like I feel like maybe we'll do episodes on this sort of stuff. But like things like Comfy AI or LLM, what do you call it?
LM Studio?
Yeah, LLM Studio. Okay. And just seeing what I could do with it and that led to the first thing that I realized I got good at was actually prompting, because hacking away at stuff, just downloading a model and not knowing what to do with it, like, I started to realize that all the prompting that I had done for other things had been like, be as descriptive as possible and blah, 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 blah. And that's actually not, for most things, the right way to do it. I
Wait,
learned.
so what did you change?
I learned about, well, when understanding how memory works in AI. So then using markdown files as reference for creating schematics for the project that you want to do. That's the biggest unlock, because then the other thing is that then you're constantly referencing back and forth to, and you can, it's harnessing essentially in the most basic way. So I did little things like, you know, I said this to you the other day that the dumb thing about this will be for the audience. Here's something tangible. At the end of the show, the very last thing that I do, because of the way publishing the show works, is create the links for the show notes, which is it's dumb, but you have to go get the link, cut and paste it in, go get the link, cut and paste it in, go get the link, cut and paste it in. And it, you know, at the end of a show, like, I'm kind of cognitively and emotionally burned. And so, like, even though that's only 10 minutes or really 5 minutes or whatever, like, taking that off my plate, that was amazing. So, like, I created a script and a whole system for doing that, where every day now I just go into Claude and I say, show notes. It looks at my script that I did that day that's sitting in my Google Drive file and does it all automatically. Just a dumb little thing.
So you basically have given Claude access to Google Drive, and then you've created like a skill. Is it a skill? Or?
I mean, I've done it several different ways, and like we can get into like the back and forth of, or the differences in that. And again, that could be a whole nother episode, just that.
Well, I guess I think some of these details are important because they help to set up whether you want to think about it as scaffolding or essentially rungs in a ladder, right? Because I you know, we can jump around, and I feel like one of the things that has also been like an unlock for me is to learn some of the basics in different contexts and then to apply them to other things that I'm trying to do. And so, for example, you know, maybe I would have started with like a basic skill to like write the show notes, you know, for after a podcast is done. But you'd also want to get like the transcript. You also want to maybe like have some key, you know, clips or like, you know, topics or, you know, like posts that come out of that. And so you can create a number of skills and then you can apply that in another context.
And if you're, again, I've been using Claude mostly, but so like if you do the Claude co-work bit, like so then you can set up entire systems around your files systems and stuff like that. Okay, let me jump to the resume writing thing. So again, ResumeWriters.com was the first company I ever founded when I was 19. I actually still own it. It's 26 years old. At its height, we had 90 writers around the world that were contracted with us. We have probably serviced more than 200,000 job seekers over those years.
And explain the sort of like the product and the offering, right? Because essentially it's you can just get a resume, you know, do it yourself, or you can download something from LinkedIn. But like, what's special about what you are offering?
There's an entire, or there has been until recent years, an entire industry of people that are certified resume writers. There's certification agencies and things like that. It's like a real sort of specialized writing profession. And I've always enjoyed the fact that I've made most of my money helping people find jobs and improve their lives, but then also helping writers make a living full time as writers. So essentially, what ResumeWriters.com has always been is, hey, come fill out a form. You're in this industry, you're looking for a job. Maybe you have this job opening that you're specifically, fine. We ingest that. We have all these writers that specialize in various industries. We essentially we're a sorting mechanism, and then the client works one-on-one with the writer, and then we also monitor to make sure that the customer service happens, that things get delivered, all that stuff. Like I said, been a good company for 25 years, 26 years, but as soon as the AI stuff started, I was aware that like, well, this is coming right for that, right? And the first couple years so I've always screwed around with that, and the first couple years it wasn't anywhere close to being able to do competent things. And then after January, after CES, as I'm screwing around with stuff, I got incentivized again to like play around. And oh yeah, it has gotten a lot better with a couple of caveats. So yes, you could go to ChatGPT or Claude right now, paste in a job description. You can even add your existing resume and say, do this for me, which is what I always wanted. Which, by the way, side note, I have for 3 years been engaging various software developers to try to. That was my dream. Is I want to be able to throw a job description at the AI and tweak so that instead of having one resume that's one size fits all, you could have
it's like customized,
a unique customized resume for every job application that you do. And I've, paid people here and there. It's never quite worked out. It's never been as good as I wanted it to do. And then so when I'm screwing around with Claude now, so this would be January into February, it's good, but not good in the way that I want it, because, I mean, obviously Claude is getting better and better. AI is getting better and better. But
which models were you using at that time?
All of them. I've done Gemini. I've done Gemini for me is
so
the
I
worst.
mean like Opus or like Sonnet?
Oh, I always did Opus. Yeah, I've been paying
Okay.
Yeah. There's two things that I didn't like about it is that even though the AI is getting better, it still is a generic tool.
Sure.
It's not a specialized tool. And then also, because one thing you got to keep in mind is by running this company, for the first couple of years, I wrote every resume. So I must have written over 1,000 resumes the first couple of years of the company. And then there were many years when I was managing it and managing the writers and stuff like that. So I have seen through my hands what a good resume is to the tune of tens of thousands of times, right? So I have an opinion on this that is very specific. And so A, I didn't like the output of the resume. And B, as I'm learning to prompt, okay, after several iterations, and again, making markdown files and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, I'm getting the result that I want, that I feel like is a well-written resume, not a generically written Claude resume. It's a resume that I feel like a human from ResumeWriters would create, right? So now I have that. It's a skill, but how do I go out and sell that? Well, you'd have to create a website and a program and all that stuff. Okay. What actually triggered me into this was asking the users for their projects. And here,
listeners.
Listeners. Sorry.
Okay.
Listen. I've been talking with Claude so much about users, and getting listeners to say, "Well, what did you do? What did you use it for?" And so many of the answers were, "I didn't think I could code anything, but I just kept trying to go as far as I could until I couldn't go any further, and I never hit the wall." And so then that made me think, well, all right, if this is the thing, if I'm sitting here with what I believe is a better way to use AI to write a resume, because I have prompt engineered it to be what I think is quality, and I also want to deliver it in a way that, because again, the wrestling of the prompt engineering, wrestling with Claude back and forth to get it to do what you want is so annoying. So what if I created a system that eliminated all that? You and I have always talked about knobs and dials as opposed to just brute force talking into the chat, typing into the command line. And so I sat down one morning. It was a Thursday morning at 7:30 in the morning, and 2.5 hours later, I went back and forth with Claude, and Claude was like, "All right, let's do this." Now, I want to come back to that because I want to tell you what I learned.
What happened in the 2.5 hours?
The first thing I said was, hey, I have the domain resumewriting.com. I have this idea for how to do an AI resume writing product. Scope it out for me. Like, what would it take? What would I need to set up? So it's saying like, well, you'd need to, get an account on Vercel and Supabase, and you'd need to I recommend we do it in, all the things. And I keep saying to Claude, like, okay, that's great. I don't know what any of that means, but do you think that you can work with me to do that? And Claude, of course, is always like, of course. And by the way, you're a genius and very good looking. So then by like 10 o'clock that morning, I'm like, all right, I'll give this a go. And I have the first thing that Claude does is come up with a spec, like a long, detailed, like if you printed it out, it's like at least a 30 to 40 page spec, right? Sits in the Claude memory on a project. So it's a specific project separate from all your other conversations.
Sorry, is this in Cowork or where is this? Where are you doing this work?
It kind of straddles both places.
All right.
For reasons
I'm trying to understand, because projects are a little bit weird with co-work versus just Claude, because you can have kind of like a folder and you can have some instructions in the folder.
Yeah. Okay. So
co-work allows you to have access to like the file system.
Yes, but actually deeper. Projects does too. Well, no, projects does if you're through your code through your term. I'm coding in terminal like a barbarian. But
wait, what do you mean? Are you using Claude Code?
Yeah. But like on the terminal. Like you can install Claude Code in the terminal. So what I'm saying is because I'm using terminal, right?
I understand.
Terminal has access to my file system, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. That in a project in Claude Chat,
yes,
you wouldn't have access to the file system.
Okay, let's step back, because my confusion might be other people's confusion, or other people might just be using Claude in a browser.
Or I'm using it as a dumb person, which is very likely.
The fact that you even are in a terminal, sort of, I think, sets you aside from many people. Many people accidentally open terminal and instantly freak out, because black background, white or green text. They're like, this is the matrix. I'm going to hurt my computer. I need to run away. So you decided to say, I'm willing to hurt my computer. And so you're in terminal. You've installed Claude Code.
Okay. Let me caveat this. Listen, I'm an old enough person that I remember hacking around in DOS to get the illegally
so you're not afraid of the command line.
Illegally acquired video games onto my computer. I'm not afraid of that.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just, again, delineating the differences between perhaps you and perhaps, a certain type of average listener versus a listener that maybe is like super smart and awesome, but has never ventured into the terminal.
Right.
So we're now placing you in the terminal. I presume that you are in some directory that's on your hard drive.
Right.
And from in that directory, which let's call it resume writing,
you've invoked
my repo. Claude Code.
Yes.
And sorry, you said repo. Do you literally mean that you're using like Git and GitHub for this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All of these things. Remember how
did you know these things before, or was this new?
Okay, this is also why I'm different. I know all of these terms. I have done startups. I have worked with software developers for 25 years. So I am familiar with these. That's an interesting thing that we should circle back to is having a greater understanding for software developers versus like I've always been the person on the other side of the table being like, I don't care your excuses. We need this done in 2 weeks.
Yeah. See, I think this is why we're both like dangerous and also like I'm trying to navigate how relatable we are, because we have had all this exposure, and I've been on developer relations teams even when I couldn't write any code, which, obviously somehow I must have had a good resume. But my point is, you still have a vernacular that separates you from many, even if you don't know about how to, figure out Supabase and Vercel and like these new Johnny-come-latelys.
I do understand the components.
Navigate the command line.
Yeah.
You can move between the directory and folder structure. You can, understand how Git works.
I do want to come back to that because I have a pushback on that in a second.
Sure.
So long story short, here's key lesson number 1. Any project that you want to do, talk back and forth with the thing, push back, don't just say, write something in and be like, all right, make this for me. Go back and forth, like collaboratively with your AI, and whittle down the scope of what it is that you want to.
Yeah, actually, I mean, even a more specific thing, and this was mentioned at Code with Claude, which is the developer event I just went to in San Francisco. Like the Claude team says, have Claude interview you. So essentially it's like, here's the thing that I'm trying to build, and here's roughly what I think I want it to do. Interview me about all the different details, and I will walk through them. And then, sometimes you'll run up against something, like Supabase or whatever, and you're like, I don't know, like, I'll go with whatever you want.
Let's skip ahead to that part because, okay, so I'm starting to do this. I'm getting all the accounts, but even like setting up a database or setting up like, it'll assume that I know things like, well, now you're going to want to configure this thing or that thing every single time. And I know that this is brute forcing it and that I'm burning tokens that you wouldn't have to burn, but I'm just screenshotting and screenshotting and screenshotting. So in a single session of working with Claude, I could have 300 screenshots down to the fine grain of like,
wait, what is the purpose of these screenshots?
I'm like, I don't know where you told me to click. You're
taking screenshots of, you're basically, this
Imagine
is the dumbest, slowest form of like computer use.
Yes.
So you could just have Claude control your computer, but instead that's maybe too hard or something. And so
Right.
you're like, here, Claude, I'm looking at this thing.
Yes.
What should I click? Okay.
You know what? This is I want to see if this is what you're using, because I haven't made the leap to have it control like my computer. Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, for someone that has, let's say, less knowledge of things like databases and things like that than we do.
Are you finding that you're learning as you go through this, or are you just kind of like tossing it over to Claude and being like, Claude, tell me what to push and I'll push it? And you're like,
I mean,
the website could be in Japanese, you know,
I am learning, but I kind of don't want to learn. The thing that I hate more than anything is smoke testing. So like after Claude runs something, it's like, hey, can you go back, Brian, and double check if this is actually built correctly? Yeah. And I hate that shit. So the point I'm making is, we're talking about creating a software product or a website, right?
Well, specifically a web app.
Right. And I'm saying I got through some difficult stuff by just taking screenshots, being like, you told me that I can click on the left sidebar and configure this. I don't know what you're talking about. Or if it's like, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, I'm like, specifically, tell me what to paste into the thing. Okay. So we're talking about software right now, but I'm saying that you could use this in any way that it's something that you feel like is beyond your ken. And like Lisa has done it recently for things involving the kids' education, for getting IEPs done and stuff like that, where it's not just asking like, what do you think these test results mean? Okay, but you need to apply for this school. Okay, how do I do it? Okay, where? So again, I've been like screenshot. Once Claude has an understanding, or your AI has an understanding of what you want it to do, if you get lost any step of the way, just force it to guide you.
Yeah, I mean, the multimodality, I think, is really incredible. And another example of this, actually, just last night, I was working on a project and I was arguing with Claude about how to handle authentication. You know, and I've worked on authentication for 15 years, and it's like, I want to do this other way. And Claude's like, no, you should really do it this other way. And so I had to go into Sketch, and I actually created some UI mockups to say, actually, this is how I want it to flow. And I was able to essentially make my case better. Now, granted, you know, Claude's going to be sycophantic and, you know, nice design, whatever. But nonetheless, once I was able to actually show what I wanted, then that was another way to actually advance the conversation, as opposed to staying in like verbalese. And like, you know, even in Claude Code, it'll create diagrams and all sort of ASCII art and things like that. And it's close, but it's never quite.
Well, by the way, I also got the timing really right, because have you used Claude Design at all yet?
Oh, it's very interesting.
Oh my God. That has been like I leapt over stuff that would have taken a lot of time. Okay. Let me try to get this out as quickly as possible. So here's the bottom line. I'm not there yet. Actually, by the time hopefully this episode comes out, it will be launched and final or whatever. Like I had
what's keeping you from launching it?
I'm not done yet. I actually had to.
What does done mean?
It's not exactly usable yet. I had to revert like a good 2 days of work this morning, because I realized I had gone down a cul-de-sac of design that.
So let me actually, this is another important point, and I think this is actually so, like, given how you and I came up and how expensive things were to do, right? You know, you'd spend, I don't know, $200,000 on like a software project or something. You'd be like, okay, it's done. Like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
You know, I spent, I mean, this will put it into some perspective. I built the first functioning version of this like identity verification app on a train on my way to Vancouver to the App Proto Blue Sky Developer Conference. So like in 45 minutes, I built like the first version of this app, just like vibe coding, and it worked.
Yeah.
And that made a number of assumptions about how it would work. And so I went down a path and I thought that was going to be good. And in recent weeks, I've expanded what I'm trying to do. And what I've come to the realization of is that it's just better to just start actually from scratch, like completely start over and start with a new architecture and throw away V1.
Yeah.
And you'll actually get much further faster. And so whatever, you know, I don't know what exactly you're describing, but if you're like, I need to do some refactoring, it's actually possible now to be like, maybe not refactor, but actually rebuild.
Okay.
Like tear it down and start over.
I now this gets to you saying, are you learning as you're going? So one of the things that I wanted to do was I got it to work. So essentially you upload your resume to my thing, and then you cut and paste the job description, and it tweaks. I'm going to show you a screenshot in a second. But what was happening was it would take a good 90 seconds to work, which
Yeah.
we're used to that with AI. But if this is a consumer-facing product where I'm saying, hey, normal people, I'm trying to take the scary or the complication out of AI, I wanted to get that down. And Claude claimed they could do it. And like I said, I'm talking about, this is maybe 10 hours of consistent coding work. We got it down, but it kept breaking to the point where I realized, hey, remember how we had a functional system that you could cut and paste? It may have taken 90 seconds to work, which sucked, but
let's go back to that.
But now it doesn't work at all. So I literally said, stop, Claude. When was the last time this actually worked? And it gave me an answer. I was like, let's revert to that point. And it pushed back on me. I was like, motherfucker, we're doing this. And Claude was like, well, but look at all the sunk costs that you put into it. I was like, there's no point of a sunk cost of something that's non-functional. Yeah. Okay, so I want to bring what the product is to an end, because I really hope people don't think that I'm like trying to promote this as a product, because by the way,
I don't think so.
I'm going to, I have a separate project where Claude is going to help me with the entire marketing campaign, doing,
of course,
launching with Google Ads. And then, and again, I did the same thing. Like, here's what we want to achieve. Here's the CAC that I want to achieve. Here's the blah, 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 blah. So create a schematic. And
wait, so before you go ahead though, in terms of going back, was Claude checking in its progress as it was proceeding using Git? Okay.
Yeah. Like, no, I've been trying to, Claude is forcing me to do actual,
like, better software engineering techniques,
legitimate software engineering techniques where there are specific sprints. There are and so like I understand now the difference between a commit and a push and things like that. Yeah. Or what did I say the other day? I understand what environment, what is it? What's the
environmental variables?
Environment variables. I understand what those mean now. Okay, so here's where we are right now. And like I said, by the time I post this episode, hopefully like anyone will be able to go to resumewriting.com and see it. But I'm going to share the screen with you right now, because I want to show you, this is not just a web page. This is something that, I mean, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but I didn't think I would able.
Well, it's your baby, so of course it's going to be beautiful.
Okay, so look. So this is after someone has ingested their resume, right? And then put in also a job description. And there are legitimate knobs and dials here where here are some blocking things that I need you to clarify.
Hold on, let me explain this to the listeners what we're seeing, right? So this is resumewriting.com. It's actually quite like a dark theme, and I don't know if that's stylistically a choice.
I might go back on that too. I might revert that. But when on the when you're logged in, it's dark. When you're not logged in, it's light.
I see.
Anyway,
okay. Well, light and dark mode. That's anyways.
Yeah.
And so on the left-hand side, we've got a couple menu options: tailor a job, tailorings, my resume, templates, preferences, and account. And then on the right-hand side, we're seeing a number of cards in an interface. And at the very top, there's effectively what looks to be sort of a blocking issue that needs to be resolved. That provides you a couple different options to take action on, I presume, the suggestions that Resume Writing has provided. And then down below is the resume itself, and then a number of things that have been changed by the AI.
Right. So now that blocking thing, why is that there? Because I kept running into problems where it's like, well, if the person hasn't given me enough information, then I'm just going to return gobbledygook anyway.
So this is the validation step.
Validation. Then what you can also see is there is an actual image of the resume generated with the actual resume language in it. Which again, I can do things now like, on the fly, create PDFs and Word docx files in design and stuff like that. But here's the key part. This is what I love. So as opposed to it just being a chat bot where you have to wrestle with it, what I have over here is what the AI changed, a summary of what they changed.
Sorry, so what they changed is the delta between what someone uploaded and then what is shown here.
Someone's existing resume and then what they changed to tailor it to that specific new job.
Yep.
Okay, then the situation read, which is like, here's what I think you were going to want 1 to 2 pages. You're trying to make a lateral move. So this is the AI telling you what it thinks you're trying to do, right? Including goals. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So this is where my prompt engineering is like, okay, it's weak right now because of these things. So confirm yes or no.
Okay, sorry. So
Yes.
so for a listener, basically there are a number of either assumptions or kind of they're not quibbles, but like in order to make the resume stronger, resume writing, the
I'll
AI
give you an
is
exact example.
asking a number of things, and you can confirm yes or no, which will then change the shape of the resume. So yeah, give us an example.
This job is in Roslyn, New York, but the resume was for
Mhm.
someone living in Portland, Oregon. So it says, "Are you willing to signal that you're open to move for this
Got it.
position? Yes or no?" Now,
Cool.
when you click yes or no, that goes into the prompt cache. And so
Mhm.
now when we're going to do another iteration, that's going to affect what happens. There's also a scoring for, it says 62 out of 100, and it gives you the reasons why the score is good or bad. I don't know that I love that. I'm still
So
kind
that specifically is an ATS
yeah.
word match, and so
Yes.
essentially for automated systems, they're looking for specific keywords. And
Right.
so if you want to basically put your resume into the meat grinder of
Right.
ATSs, then you need to match on certain keywords in order to
Exactly.
be flagged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Either I bet I don't launch with that. I mean, I'll save it and then
Hmm.
like launch it post.
How, I mean, what I suppose this is a completely different conversation or topic, but like from a pricing perspective,
Yeah.
those are the types of things that could be, upgradable.
Oh
And so you
yeah.
could
Hey, that's
like,
part of Claude's whole spec for this, man.
I see.
We're just
Okay.
launching the MVP, and then we'll add on
Is
cover
your
letters.
goal to make this free, or is it
Oh,
to make it,
if you look
you're
on the
charging
bottom
by
left of the
default?
screen,
I
it's
know it's,
50 credits for
I see.
$24.95 a month. Yeah.
So it's like 50 cents for each credit.
Yes, essentially. So,
Okay.
okay.
And to do one resume is how many credits? Or yeah, how many?
One. Okay, wait. I'll explain that in a
Oh,
second.
all
So,
right, okay.
okay. So, last thing is questions and gaps. So, I've identified the AI or I
Okay.
again because this is my prompt engineering that
Yeah.
spent weeks and weeks figuring this out. These are the things that I'm still missing to make a good resume in the right way, right? Which Claude is not going to necessarily catch because again, Claude is the one that has generated this first version of the resume, and I am saying, yeah, but it is
Sure.
a blunt instrument, and here's how you can get it better. So there's clarifying things, 8 different ones of them. There's specific questions. If you click into it, you can answer that question. Again, it gets cached into the next prompt iteration. So then final block here is, is there anything else you would like me to change before we do another iteration? Okay. So now if you hit retailer, it will now take everything that you just answered and do another run at it. And then I've even, although this isn't live yet, you can come up here and look and show the changes, show what was rewritten, show what was prompted. And on the second iteration, it'll tell you again the changes that it made. So again, now, this is a glorified wrapper around AI. I get that. But it's also trying to guide people. It's number one, it's my take. There's those startups out there that are like, hey, talk to this scientist or that therapist because we've trained it on their writing or their philosophy or whatever. And so when you're talking to them, in theory, you're getting their expertise via AI. Okay, this is my expertise on what I think makes a good resume.
Well, you've productized your expertise through an interface.
Exactly. And then the second part of the interface is, again, someone that's not good at wrestling with the prompting and with the chatbots and things like that. I'm guiding you through the messy steps to get a better result than just saying, hey, can you just make this better?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you are providing like substance to the question of better.
All right. I've stopped sharing the screen, right? Good.
Yes.
All right. So everything that I just described to you is something that I thought would be impossible for someone like me, right? And I have paid people tens of thousands of dollars to do, and no offense, I'm not saying these people were bad, but they weren't able to achieve what I wanted. That's another thing that I've learned is that, again, as opposed to saying to somebody, hey, in your side opinion, in your side free time, I'll give you $10,000 if you try to hack this together for me. And then they bring it back to me and I'm like, it's no good or whatever. But by me doing the actual steps myself, I'm able to make these pivots where it's like, hey, that's not working the way that I want it, as opposed to them delivering the product and me being like, yeah, that's not quite there, but not knowing how to tell them how to do it,
I mean, I think it's a really important point, right? Because just throwing $10,000, at a software project without a lot of direction and like fine grain controlled and like
Right.
writing the PRDs and like getting
Right.
super in the weeds
Right.
is probably going to produce something, that's like pretty milquetoast. And that's similar to how
100%.
it used to be with prompting, right? You'd be like, oh, make my resume better. And it's like, actually, there's a lot of detail in each of these things and that you've honed over, building an entire business around this.
All right. Well, think about actually the interesting part is because I have this expertise in what makes a good resume. I was far away from the metal that would make the good product because I had to go to, like, I can't expect a software developer to know what a good resume is. Even if I try, I write out tons of descriptions and have interviews and here's samples and stuff like that. Like, I had the expertise, but I was several layers away from it because I couldn't do the coding. So,
well, I mean, even putting it a sort of different way, right? Like the service that you provided was to write resumes for people that don't know the ins and outs of how to write a good resume for whatever reason. I mean, it's not something maybe you'll do a resume in, high school or something, but it's not whatever. Maybe you Google it and like you get some tips, but it's like, to your point, a lot of these super fine details, even when I look at some of my friends' resumes and I look at like the job description, I'm like, it says right here, there's like a few things in here that are nowhere in your resume. Like what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Right. Even that from just a human to human perspective is valuable.
Oh, listen, we've over the years written resumes for, and I'm including Silicon Valley amongst this, CEOs whose names because they're, even if you're the smartest, richest, highest level person, like just getting a second opinion on what is and is not important in your career. That's half of what a resume writing.
But I guess so this is what I'm pointing to though, is like there's a question about what the software was meant to do when you hired these outside people, right? Was it just about, making the flow better? Was it about scaling the process?
Originally, like I said, I just wanted to be able to have a different resume for every job description. Because 3 years ago, that didn't exist. That was an impossible thing to do. And what ResumeWriters.com did for people for 26 years was create a one-size-fits-all resume as best we could. Like,
I see.
And so
what you were hoping to do with AI was essentially kind of go deeper into personalizing and customizing each resume for each job description. That would be done at a scale that wouldn't make sense for humans to do.
Every time you apply to a new job, it should be tweaked to that specific job description. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so now the software both allows that, but then also puts more control in the individual's hands. And you can also get quite detailed in terms of the feedback that you're getting either on the prose or on the structure of the resume that is guiding the human, and where the resume writer doesn't have to like go through and interview the person, a million times.
Right.
Because, and I guess like maybe there's a meta commentary here, which is just about the job market itself and how much more either specific it's gotten or more competitive, at least, amongst my friends, it seems to be much more competitive. And so therefore you have to tailor all of your submissions to the job description, or else you're not even going to be considered. And so because of that creates a different pressure on your business that you can't really have like a one size fits all resume and hope to do as well as before.
Okay. I know that you're a product guy, but let's pull back from the product because again, I want to come back. I mean, if it looks like to you this is something that is kind of useful, then I'm happy because that's right. But okay. I could not have achieved a dream that I could achieve. Like, so once you're done, you can change designs. There's only 10 of them right now, but I'm going to add more, and that'll be another upgrade and all that stuff.
Sure.
And then you can get it as a PDF, or you can get it as a like the fact that I could code up a system that can create on the fly different designs in PDF or docx files based on the text that also my program generated. Like I would never have dreamed that was something that I could create. I believe I could create a more complicated web app.
Sure.
But it would be surface. Right. This is
like this is an entirely different workflow.
Yeah. This is deeper where we're producing things that are like on a different.
So one I think this is an important question because like when you have a business, doing this, whether it's a side hustle or it's meaningful income. When it comes to deploying this, I think there's going to be, a question where the rubber meets the road and then you have like real user issues and challenges.
Yeah.
And so I guess like and we don't really, know this for you yet, but the question really is, can you go from this like vibe coded product, which I believe is net new, right? You're not like taking an existing product and like updating or modernizing it.
Yeah, totally not
Like
new.
when there are issues or bugs that come up, is it a matter of just kind of like shooting it over to Claude and being like, hey, a user's reporting this?
So
like, how are you going to handle testing?
There are things like Sentry and stuff like that, and observability, like, so I can get reports when like the thing
I love that like we invested in companies that actually like build these products.
But Chris, I had a conceptual understanding of what those things do.
Sure.
I didn't have a working. I mean,
I understand.
Yeah,
like, obviously, once you start to touch it, you start to realize what this is, and it demystifies it, like how it works.
So this could be very wrong, but like I have also set up a separate project where it's like, Claude, I want to get a morning report every day. I want to know, like, I need the Sentry reports for when, people get stuck and they can't, upload their resumes, or like the iteration on the resume breaks after try number 3 or something. I need all of that stuff.
Did you have Sentry for the existing platform?
No.
Oh,
all those things are new. Yep.
Oh. So are there ever there's no bugs in the current product because you're not looking for them?
Are you talking about ResumeWriters, the human product?
Yeah. Yes, the existing product.
There are humans there because I have managers who manage the writers, and so like it's
but that's the human side. I'm asking if technically something fails in the current system.
Every couple years ResumeWriters goes down in some funky way, and it ruins my day because I have to be like, oh God, I gotta fix this somehow.
So it could have been broken for many, many months before that, but then it just at some point it just craps out.
Listen, the very first ResumeWriters website, I bought the software package front page produced by Microsoft in 1999.
Sorry, I was a Dreamweaver kid.
Okay, so look, it's probably really not gotten much more sophisticated than that in 25 years.
Oh my God, it's probably still running front page on like Windows.
No, it's not. It's not still running front page, but yeah. Long story short, I mean,
basically,
it's all running on Shopify now and shit like that.
I see. Okay.
Okay. Back to the idea of, and I keep running into problems, but I keep fixing them. So what I'm saying is, so I said to my wife, your office, they're going to come to you. The industry you work in, they might be behind the 8 ball by 18 months, but someday they're going to get the religion and they're going to come to you and they're going to be like, we're going to change how the office operates in this, that, and the other way. I saw the news that now Claude plugs into AutoCAD.
Blender. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I said, so imagine I'm saying this to my wife, but I'm saying this to any listener out there. Okay. You can wait for that to happen for 18 months, or you could right now start to tinker with this stuff. And again, before they say we need to revamp this entire office and how it operates using AI, what if you did that just for yourself? And then you could keep it a secret from your boss or whatever, but like just find a way to make your process. Again, what is the ideal software for the job that you do that has never been made because it's
there's an even simpler way to approach this, which literally is to ask, Claude or your preferred, AI provider to interview about your job.
Where are the pain points? What could be better?
Do an
faster.
inventory of what are repetitive things, that happen. And does it make sense to either build like a little mini app? Does it make sense to like build a script? Does it make sense to, turn on some sort of automation?
Right. Now, the benefits of that are maybe you succeed enough that you get a little more efficient and you write the show notes links automatically and save yourself 10 minutes every day. Better case scenario, you kind of like improve your processes for yourself. Next best case scenario, you take this to your boss and you say, look at what I did. And so you're the one that 6 months early is like, hey, do you realize what we can do here? As opposed to waiting for it to happen. So there's lots of, again, if you just try it and just see how far you can get before you get blocked, there's no real downside to it. And if the worst case scenario is you learn how to prompt better, then the next time you have a vacation,
sort of like the meme going around is like, AI is not going to take your job. It's going to be someone who knows how to use AI. And especially in these vertical contexts, I think that's true. And so you're like, the point that I was getting to before about your domain knowledge is effectively, now maybe in some ATS systems, the data exists that matches resumes to job descriptions. And that is amazing training data for someone that wants to build, the replacement for resume writing. But the alternative is for you, Brian, to go and take all of your knowledge in the specific domain and say, actually, I've seen all these resumes and I've seen the outcomes. And therefore I can, in conversation with Claude or my, AI, come up with a set of heuristics that will walk people through my process. And they're essentially, I mean, you are
right. So imagine
allowing your knowledge to be essentially turned into a kind of raw material or gold and to be, sold accordingly.
There could be listeners out there that are life coaches or things like that.
Sure.
Like that could, again, you could do something similar. And again, I have to credit the listeners with this, because when I was specifically saying, if you're not a software developer, but you have done something interesting, what was it? And it kept coming back, and I can't use any of them now because I haven't gotten approval for anybody to talk about it or whatever. But it was like that. It's like, you know what? I do my job 30% better now because I fixed this problem that had always bothered me. And it wasn't always software. Maybe it is just, using Claude Cowork to manage your calendar better or something like that. Like I want to do segments on stuff like if it's something that simple, like, but
I mean, I think I don't know if I told you about this experience that I had. I mean, because
let's get to you, because we've talked about me long enough. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you so I think there's two thoughts here that I think are quite relevant. At the beginning of the year, I decided that for a lot of last year, I was doing a lot of hourly coaching, and I still do hourly coaching, mostly on launch and go to market. And that is how I make basically all my income these days. And so, what I was finding is that I was really reluctant to pare down the hours that I was available. So you could kind of like book my time, anyone from like 9 a.m. to like 5 p.m., like sometimes 6 days a week. I was just like, I never want to miss someone that wants to come and book time with me. And the result was that my calendar was super chaotic, and it was like, I never had time for focus work and things like that. So I decided coming into this year, I wanted to take back my time. I wanted to spend more time able to work out. I wanted to spend more time actually doing these vibe coding projects. And for that, you actually need some, chunky time. And so I worked with, at the time, ChatGPT to basically take my entire year of bookings from last year. I had it build a, heuristic and a visual that showed me a heat map of what times of which days were the most essentially lucrative for me or the most productive. And then I stripped back all of my availability to just those times. And I said, we'll run Q1 with that availability, and we'll see how that impacts my income. And it turned out that it didn't change it at all. I cut back my hours by probably 70%. So the time that I make available, same amount of money, but I have 70% more time to work on things that I want to work on as a result of this.
Let me stop you there, because again, I've been talking about software. Yes, I have a job. I have the domain name resumewriting.com. Right. Okay. I have this 25 years of a specific set of skills, to quote Liam Neeson. But what you just described, if you're a salesperson, if you're a therapist or whatever, like that sort of ability to change just the way you work, even if you don't touch software at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think this leads to the second point, and I think this is actually going to be something that I'm going to challenge you to do after the show, which is so what I did, and because I had the data, right? Because I had a CSV of all my bookings and I had all my Stripe transactions, and I was able to like look at the actual story of my business. ChatGPT was able to say, okay, based on what the data shows, here's how you could go forward with this. Similarly, for a lot of the vibe coding projects that I've done recently, and I think for you, this would be super interesting, would be to come up with some kind of self-analysis prompt that essentially asks, imagine that you're my hiring manager, or you're head of HR, or you're the CTO of Resume Writing Inc. And, you see how, is it Austrespirous? I don't know, like essentially or like entrepreneurial I've been in building this product. I want to be able to do more compelling software projects, do an analysis of our process. How could I improve? What would I do if I were actually like 10x better? And what are the questions that I didn't ask well? And how could I improve my process so that next time when we work on something, it goes better? And I've actually done this on a couple of my projects, and it's really pointed out a lot of gaps in how I think about things. Or for example, sometimes like, and I think a lot of people have this experience with vibe coding where you maybe you just don't quite know what you're trying to do. And you're just like, go build something, show me something. And there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of iteration. And it can be, kind of a wasted time, as opposed to what Claude was telling me is like, actually, why don't you ask me again to do this interviewing you, so we can get clearer on what your goals are? Why don't you set, like, it was like, upload some examples of things that you like, show me some things that you don't like. And as a result, Claude's like, I will be 40% more efficient in this process just because of that one little tweak.
And I'll give you an example. I won't go into the details now for the time, but I told you one time about a startup idea that I had, and I was like, how come no one's ever done this? And you weren't really hot on it. And I asked Claude about it after doing this, and Claude shot me down and was like, here, X, Y, and Z, this is already served by these products. And also the reason these products do it, but no one else has, is because blah, 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 blah. So like you can, again, you're talking about like getting better at stuff, but it can also save you from mistakes.
Yeah. So the other one is, and I saw this going around recently, you can do pre-mortems. So I'm using this actually on my current project. I'm like, Claude, I want you to go 6 months in the future and presume that this project has failed. Go through all the reasons based on where we are now.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Why it failed.
Well, that's cool.
Because you asked Claude to like do these projections and things like that. And of course it's going to like be super optimistic and you're going to be making, $6 million a day. You should be like, no, Claude, I want you to go in and basically tear this down. The project failed. It's,
No, I don't know that it's ever done that for me, but I have had it do things like, I need to, what's our margins? Like, and so around designing it, like based on how the prompt is engineered.
Right, but what I'm saying is it's great to have that in the positive space.
Sure.
What I'm saying is now have the contrarian take.
Right.
And act as if it has failed.
Well, that's
just
also
to bolster your strategy.
But what I'm pointing out is that any kind of project like budgeting, you can save yourself from things, because you can be like, hey, if I do this change, how will that affect the economics of this? Right.
Sure.
And then, well, it would change it this way and it would change it that way. And then it's also interesting. And again, I don't know if this was the thing that happened over the last 6 months, but it will proactively suggest things to you.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So it's not always, I mean, yes, it's still very like, hey, you're great and beautiful and smart, but at the same time, it'll also say, yeah, I see what you're doing here, but have you thought of this? And again, it's not always the most brilliant idea. Have you thought of this? But sometimes it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Let's explore that,
I think it's like, yeah, I think what you're pointing to is the way in which the models have really changed, both to be more proactive and to be thought partners, meaning that it's no longer the case where you just kind of like try to be super declarative in your prompt.
Right.
So you get like a very specific outcome. It's sort of like, a very bad way to program.
Which is how I was familiar with it a year ago. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, is that the difference now is that it really is kind of a bi-directional meaning kind of builder, where you're working together to come up with kind of a plan or a way forward, as opposed to thinking you know best.
That's the other thing. I don't know that I should specify this, and this is specifically for coding, but I don't know, maybe this is applicable to other things. I am running Claude against himself. Because, I have Claude open over here, and then I have Claude in terminal over here. So Claude code will return something. I will paste that back into Claude and say, code said this, and Claude will be like, yeah, I don't think they got that right. And
actually, I do that with Codex, and I do it with Claude Code. So essentially, like you said, if you're writing a bunch of plan files as markdown files, I will essentially have like Codex go in and be a critiquer, and it'll provide a bunch of like evals about whether or not the plan is good. And then I'll take whatever it outputs and I'll bring it back to Claude, and I'll be like, okay, you need to like work on these things.
So I'm like the
coordinator.
I'm the child in the middle that is getting mom and dad to do what I want them to do by playing them off against each other. Your mom said this, your dad said this. Yeah. Okay, so have you gone down the route? And if this isn't interesting, I want to know what you have been doing. Have you gone down the route of having OpenClaude and agents running on your?
Sort of. I've dabbled in it. I was quite conservative and more reluctant to bring OpenClaude like into my local machine. I don't have a spare Mac Mini running around, and I think that while it sounds super powerful, I also just can't afford that level of vulnerability. However, the folks at Every have a sort of an early access hosted OpenClaude product that you can access through Slack. It's called +1. And so I got into their beta and was using that for a little while. And, it was very interesting on a number of fronts. One of the more interesting things was that there was a shared Slack channel with all the beta users. And so everyone's plus ones were kind of in the same Slack channel and they could like talk to each other. And then Every has a product called Proof, which is an agentic text editor that's on the web. And so essentially you can be like, hey, what did I call mine? I called mine Old Bay was the name of my plus one, the crab seasoning.
Yep.
And
I thought you were referring to an old girlfriend, but yeah, okay.
Not B-E-Y, B-A-Y, the spice, the seasoning.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, hey, Old Bay, go write a proof doc, about this thing. And it would go like generate something and it would send me the link. And then we could like kind of collaborate on in real time. I went in and I did a bunch of like config stuff, in the cloud hosted thing. And it was fine. I mean, it's super cool that it does a bunch of things, but there was just like these failure cases that it felt like this is not my software. This is hosted. Like I can get a bunch of this stuff done using Claude, code effectively and running locally.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really stick with it. I think what is really interesting about it is how accessible it is, especially like on mobile or through like messaging apps.
Yeah.
And then how you can like set it up to do things for you. And I know like Anthropic is moving forward with adding some of these features. Again, this code conference that I just went to, they were showing off their cloud agents and routines and memories and dreams and like all these different things. And so they're getting there. But no, I haven't gone super deep on it.
So you've already given us one thing, like what have you done with AI that has like tangibly improved your life, which was the calendar thing that you're mentioning where you're working less but making the same amount of money. Do you got another example? And it can be as I also created an app that's on my phone that I know exactly how long it takes me to walk to the subway stop that's nearest my house. I plugged into the MTA's data and I can plug in an address in Manhattan and I can say, let me know when I need to leave my house to hit the next F train to get into that. And that's just an app on my phone now. And that was like trivial.
It's interesting to me because I feel like I've been living this life for many years, but, without the ability to, it's sort of like, I don't know, driving a go-kart without the ability to like open up the hood and like replace the battery or something. And so,
that's exactly right. Like you can drive the car, but if it breaks, you actually don't know how it's functioning.
Correct.
You open up the hood and it looks like a bunch of weird, scary stuff. And if it breaks down, you wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, or if it's a car, the only two things that you could really do is like, put gasoline in it or like put some windshield wiper fluid in the front. And
turn it on and turn it off to try to get it to work again.
And then you take it to the experts, and you paid them $10,000 to build the next version of it. No, so and I mean that I was doing this before because I was a long-term Alfred user, and so I would build workflows, and Alfred had like a visual workflow builder where you could go in and connect different services. So I'd done that for Twitter and I'd done it for a bunch of other apps. Raycast is very, very similar. And I've talked about Raycast quite a bit in the past and how I've built extensions, for myself. And that's just like blown up in terms of my productivity on that platform. So I've been down this path before, but I would say that your experience lines up with, I'm building two pieces of software that are significant. I'm not planning to release them. They're basically just for me. One is a financial tracker, which seems to be what a lot of people do. But my intention is to replace my Airtable subscription, which is far too expensive now. And so I'm building, and I'm sure there's people that would, advise me against doing this, but I'm building a local Docker-based, and I'm actually using Supabase to pull in all my transactions and to normalize and dedupe and do all this stuff. And it's like probably the most ambitious project that I'm working on. So that's one. And then the other one, which was sort of a fun project to play around with Swift UI, is to build an app that allows me to look into my Ring cameras from both like the Mac menu bar or from like a desktop app. And the reason why I need this is because like my shed where I work is in like the back of the house and like the doorbell is in the front. And it's a pain in the ass for me to like pull open my phone and like see when the doorbell rings. What I want is just to like go to the menu bar and be like, okay, what's happening in the front? And so, I built my first Swift app to do this. And I've been like iterating on that. So those are two other projects where, one is saving money and hopefully building something that's very specific to my needs. And then the second one is more like a life quality of life enhancement. But
The
yeah,
the financial one is interesting. I did remember how there was a time when I had somebody create an app for me to be like the 52-week highs, just so I could know
yeah,
what
that's right.
companies. But also, I have been paying for years a service, $100 a year for most of my money is in a strategy called dividend appreciation. So like you invest in things like Procter and Gamble or whatever, like dividend aristocrats that raise their dividend every year. If you get in early enough
I see.
in your life, you can like your yield on cost will be like 80% by the time you need to retire or whatever. So the key to that strategy is that works. But if any of those, so like I have a portfolio of 50 companies that are dividend raisers, right? But if any of them run into trouble and cut their dividend or like, then I want to sell out of them. So I paid for years $100 a year for someone to like do that for me. I created a thing that does that for me. So once a month I get an email that says, hey, and not only because not all the time is someone in the portfolio in trouble, I had it rank it. Here are the ones you should be worried about. Here are the ones that you shouldn't be worried about, or things like that. So again, that is something that's finance. That's something that anybody could do. Maybe if you're not investing in dividends, but like, one of the things that I also have been motivated for this why I AI stuff is, again, being as old as I am, I remember the adults with the Apple IIs, not even the Macintoshes, that were the first people to show me the earliest personal computers. You basically had to know how to program to use them, right? And would be like, look at what I can make this machine do. And I would be like, what and they would literally, this is the joke, like I organized all my resumes into this, not resume, my recipes into this. And like that's always been the joke, like, what do you do with it? I store my recipes. Yeah, I got a book over there that okay, but there was a very quick period from where it went from that hobbyist thing to people doing actual tangible things that improve their lives. I would say that again, putting on my internet history hat thing, for most people, computers really didn't change their lives until email and the web came around, because then you could do things with computers that were like shopping and talking to grandma.
Well, I mean, like, laying out pages and printing things.
Yeah,
like that was,
yeah. We did print shop every time someone had a birthday party.
Yeah, exactly.
But then one day you wake up and it's like, oh yeah, but also all of this stuff is happening. And because I wasn't paying attention to it, I missed it. And I hope my dad does not listen to this. He won't. My mom will. And I hope she doesn't tell him this. But like, my dad, I feel like he's a great guy, but he missed out on things because he was at the stage when the personal computer entered his office. And he couldn't handle, I mean, he had a career 30 years after the computer entered his office, but he really didn't get with that paradigm shift, right? He worked with it, but he didn't really understand it. And I feel like that kind of killed number one, it didn't help his career. And number two, it killed his joy in what he did, right? And so one of the things...
What did he do? What was his job?
Well, he worked for General Motors, doing finance stuff, and then because he hated computers coming in so much, he became a teacher.
Wow, I see. Okay.
And then towards the tail end of being a teacher, retired when he was like, everything's on these. I got to do all my lesson planning on
computers. They're everywhere.
So anyway, my other motivation for this is personal, not wanting to have that happen. B, also, if again, history repeats itself and it's like, it was a shift where computers come in and change work, change life and things like that. And like, you can be you don't have to be at the bleeding edge, like the Swixes of the world and the software developers that are all in Cerebral Valley doing all this stuff and doing, you don't have to be doing OpenClaude on your whatever, but you can also be aware of the things that are starting to become possible for your everyday life. And if for nothing else, you can be the asshole that tells all your friends, hey, I'm doing this AI stuff. And they're like, but they'll be doing it too in 6 or 7 years.
I guess like this, I'm probably like a little bit in the future in terms of, where you are, and that's normally been like our dynamic. I think it's actually what your call to action here is even more profound than that for a couple reasons. Um, I think you're one, yes, looking back and saying, don't let what happened to my dad happen to you with AI, I think is very reasonable and predicated on, as would be expected, your historical lens. I think projecting into the future, what I see happening is that there's a lot of resistance and a lot of ignorance and a lot of assumptions about
Oh,
how
that's
these
interesting.
technologies work.
That's
And
interesting.
it's actually, I think, removing people's agency. And
Mm.
there's a set of ideas about regulation and about like how these things are happening to people that if you don't engage with it and if you don't figure out what's possible, then you're coming into these conversations, quite ignorant. And it's almost
Yeah.
like, you're a lamplighter as, the dawn of electricity is happening,
Yes. Yep.
and you see that houses are burning down and you're like, yes, but your lanterns are also burning down houses. And the potential for this is so much greater and broader that we are basically making intelligence available. And I know I'm sounding super pilled about this stuff, but like,
Yeah.
as you and I've been talking for the last hour, like we are just at the beginning, of having intelligence available on demand.
Right.
In order to make us actually smarter and savvier in how we make use of, the dominant paradigm for coordination and collaboration amongst humans. And if you don't engage with that, it is going to happen by a bunch of other people who are like seeing the amount of power they're going to have and driving to that end.
And also, because this is part of the manifesto for this project of How I AI, is that it's sort of like a Pascal's wager.
Right, exactly.
God may not exist, but if he
might
does,
as well,
might as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I want this AI revolution to happen. In a lot of ways, I mean,
both like I think skepticism and doubt are very valid and real. It was the same thing, and I guess I'm pilled based on my experience with social media,
right.
And the way in which now obviously it did turn out to be not that great, and that's because humans are not that great. So we're just an amplifier. But for those humans who are great, they're able to reach an audience and express what they love to do and share those things better than they ever could before, and people can enjoy what they produce in ways that would never have been possible.
So by Pascal's wager part of this manifesto is I'm not sure that I want the AI stuff to happen. And you might not be either. And you tried it out once and you're like, and it gave you the wrong answer. And you're like, well, this is all bullshit.
This is garbage.
So yeah. Well, okay. None of that is wrong.
No, that's right.
But if it ends up being right, would or right, not binary, like 100% right.
Yeah, totally.
But if it ends
There's
up
going to
being
be a
right,
spectrum of effects.
if it ends up being right to a certain degree, you lose nothing by being conversant in it, right?
I mean, there's an opportunity cost. You could go learn to bake bread or prepare for the zombie apocalypse, I suppose. What I will say though is, and I think we've touched on it, the ways in which like AI has affected and changed me has been in some ways providing more of a mirror for gaps or ways that I could actually like excel or like learn better or ask better questions. And so to the degree that this is a tool of personal empowerment, which then becomes social empowerment, I think that's another angle to take this, as opposed to being like, oh, this is like happening to me and like my work is going to suck and I just have to like, no, like actually this is a moldable, shapeable substrate. It's like clay. And so, clay doesn't tell you what it needs to be turned into. That's where your creativity, presuming you have some and you want to preserve it, can be expressed. But, to this conversation that we've been having, like get in the vernacular and learning. I mean, Git is very valuable and very important in terms of actually doing the stuff well. And so once you learn some of those things, I don't know, it just like, it's been reshaping my thinking and helping me to understand and see my blind spots, in a way that if I had rejected it out of hand, I don't think I would have, been growing as much as I have been as a human in the last, year.
And I think, again, and I might be wrong about this, but my positioning, I think, because like there's no way that you're further more advanced than I am. I'm nowhere close to someone like Swix or like the Every
Same.
folks, like
Yeah.
Dan Shipper and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I can't do something that's like everybody. There's tons of people filling the niche of, well, here's the latest and the cutting edge. I'm not interested in that because I'm not there.
Yeah.
So
Well, you are where you are, which is probably where a lot of other people are also.
but also I'm probably ahead of a lot
A huge
of
number of people.
right. So I want
Exactly.
to then be the fast follower to the
Sure.
or I want to do something that will be like that, where it's like, hey, this is possible, and here's a tangible thing. All right, two quick questions, and then I'll let you go. Is there anything else that you have done in your personal life with AI that you're like, yeah, people need to know about this because it actually is pretty fucking cool?
Huh. Well, I guess, on the flip side of everything we've just talked about in terms of like personal productivity, I would say in terms of my own, you know, qualities, as a, I don't know, as a quasi-humanist / technologist, is that I have been, using products like Granola and other AI note takers in a lot of my, personal relational conversations. And so, Portia and I will actually capture some of our heated debates and conversations and conflicts.
Do you have a
so
Claude, which, by the way, is a
Uh-huh.
sponsor, except for the fact that I already had one, so this is not.
You can send one to me.
Yeah, and it's useful because you can record your conversation with your partner in real time, because it's like I want a source of truth that both of us can access.
So there's that, right? Which is adjudicating conflict. But the other side is actually, again,
remembering, analyzing,
bring a
third party
who is on my partner's side to then argue with me, and then to use my own psychology against me to help me see in the ways in which I'm not meeting the moment, or in which I could actually improve, my understanding or how I communicate. So that's another area. And, just by having data over time that allows you to see how your arguments are actually improving, and like the quality of, connection and repair after them, I think is super valuable and useful. So that's one.
So I'm going to end with the second one. Archie, shut up. I don't know if you can hear that. You started at the beginning by saying that, like, Brian, you invested money in a fund that was an AI fund, but you weren't using it in your personal life. And then part of this is me explaining why I didn't think it was applicable to my personal life. And that's kind of, again, the thesis and the manifesto of this project. But again, acknowledging that you're always more technical and further down the road and quicker to new things than me, would you say that, again, for using AI in your personal life, could you point to one thing that you were like, your aha moment of like, oh, if I can do this, then what else could I do with it?
I honestly, I just think that, so what I tried to do with my +1, and what I tried to do with Claude Cowork before, and what I'm continuing to work on, I think it's more useful as a conceptual frame than success yet. And the project is what I call reverse Claude code. And so it's less about me telling Claude what to do and more about figuring out how to explain or express my goals, to create ways of keeping myself accountable, and then to have, Claude or whatever AI tool I'm using to essentially reflect back, whether I'm making progress against those things, over what time horizons. I'm so like ADH head, where like I just can't. I have so many different things that are pulling me in different directions that I need something that's there that says, by the way, Chris, at the beginning in January, you said these were your goals. Let's keep coming back to them, and then let's decide if they're still your goals, and let's keep moving in that direction. And so the idea is for, Claude or whatever generative AI to essentially program me and to protect my attention, because there are so many shiny things for me to pursue. So it's a work in progress, but I've connected Claude to my Things MCP, to reminders like Apple reminders. I've connected it to my calendar. I've connected it to, my email. So it has this like broad perspective of things. And every week it sort of gives me a list of all the distractions that I had. It's like, these are the things that are keeping you from achieving the things that you said that you wanted to do. What do you want to do about it? So gradually I'm trying to make progress in that way.
And by the way, again, and to end here, it doesn't always have to be right. That's not the point of this.
Correct. It's more about bringing awareness.
Or it said 9 things and only one of them was a good idea, but it's an idea that you hadn't considered before.
That's right.
Well, listen, you just said MCP, and like that's another thing that I would have known conceptually, but now I actually know in reality, and we should probably do an episode about where we can explain to people what that means, because again, that's something very simple that normal people can fuck around with and find useful. Chris, thanks so much. Is there anything that you're working on right now? I don't know. I gotta fucking fix the cul-de-sac I went down on the code. I don't know when I'm going to put this out, but I want resume writing to be live first. But
I mean, like if you don't mind burning the tokens, like honestly, I think you should try a reboot and just be like, Claude, like from everything that we've done and achieved, like I want you to write a new spec.
Oh wait, you're saying like I
like burn the whole thing down,
as opposed to reverting to the previous.
Yes, because you might be on a cul-de-sac within a cul-de-sac.
That's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm literally about to have Claude rebuild this entire thing that I just built because my assumptions have changed and my knowledge of the project has changed and how I want it to work has changed.
Right. By working on it, I've learned more than I thought.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like imagine if you were starting the project now knowing what you know.
Yeah.
How would that be different? And how much faster could you get to where you are now? Like you could honestly just like take a bunch of screenshots of how it works.
Well, also because the code base exists. So like if we know what's different.
You can always go back to it.
Well, but it can build off it. I can be like, hey, just use this for parts. Yeah.
So that's like all the, like I have a deep research project or skill that'll go look for existing open source implementations of the thing that I want to do. And we'll grab those as just reference. And we'll say, look at how they solve these problems or look at these edge cases. Let's create a plan that incorporates the learnings from those projects. And then let's like build, our own code, because oftentimes it'll be like Ruby code, but I'm writing in TypeScript or something.
Yeah. Hey, I'm writing in TypeScript too, even though
it's great.
I have no idea what it is.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice.
I just tell Claude to do it in.
Correct.
Okay, Chris. I used to say I love everybody, but I love you. So
you too,
thanks
buddy.
for coming on again.
Sure. Good to see you.
Later. All right.